The opening weekend for the 75th season of NASCAR is officially over. The Daytona 500 just ended moments ago. Welcome in, everybody. Hope y'all enjoyed the races this weekend, whether it been the 500, the Xfinity race, the truck race, or even the ARCA race on Saturday as well. Hope that y'all got your fill in. It's been months. We've waited so long for NASCAR to come back, and it is finally here and back in full force. So, congrats, first of all, to Ricky Stenhouse Jr. on winning the 500. We're going to go through the race a little bit. The race weekend itself, all three of the touring series ended under caution. Not ideal for us race fans, but with the style of racing that the plate tracks, Daytona, Talladega, now at Atlanta, we've grown accustomed to this. It's nothing out of the ordinary. As a race fan, we do wish that all of these would end up finishing on the green, and it looked pretty promising there towards the end of the 500. So the truck race, I barely got to watch any of that, to be perfectly honest with you. I was doing something else in the Xfinity race. I watched a good chunk of the Xfinity race. Towards the back half of that, I thought that Junior Motorsports was gonna do something with that. Instead, they just imploded on each other. That was kind of awkward. Back to the Daytona 500, though. I mean, what more could we want? We saw a lot of green flag racing, a lot of single file stuff, a lot of side by side. It just looks like those cars are really hard to get away from one another while they're in the draft still. We saw it last year where the high line, was prevalent, and they were just running the top, waiting for the ends of the stages. And we could pretty much, rinse, lather, repeat. We're seeing it everywhere with this car and this package. So towards the end of the first stage, you had the lap cars kind of get into there. Keselowski got the stage win. We had the first green flag pit stop. Riley Hurst spun out, got into the back of Kyle Busch. I don't think Busch had any damage off of that, and it didn't really show. We also saw Truex get into the back of Bubba, and Bubba just couldn't handle the push and smacked the outside wall on the backstretch. His car looked very, very sensitive. You could see Hamlin, the Toyotas themselves were kind of just, they didn't look like the Toyotas of last year, and I kind of expected it coming in. I expected the Fords to be a little bit stronger than they were last year, considering they had the least amount of change to the nose of the car out of all three of the manufacturers. So, it kind of comes with the territory, and we saw it. The Fords were pretty strong there throughout the entire race. Once they got disbanded, though, and the manufacturer loyalty just went out the window towards the end of the race, we saw a couple of the strong Fords come back up to the top, but, for the most part, they dominated the entire race. It was basically follow the leader there. There was a lot of running around, single file, or, basically follow the leader on whichever line you were on. You kind of saw there towards the middle of those runs, once those tires started wearing out, the top lane would kind of prevail a little bit because you got a little bit more room to track out. You could carry a little bit more momentum up there. The pushing was insane. The accordion effect, everything was quintessential plate racing at the Daytona 500 and 530, if we want to call it, after the very extended caution period after that last major wreck. The first major wreck was at lap 118. Kevin Harvick, Kyle Larson was in it. Chase Elliott got taken out. Ryan Blaney, Martin Truex, Eric Jones, Tyler Reddick, and Daniel Suarez all involved in those wrecks. It did take out a lot of good cars that I thought were going to be towards the front. Like Tyler Reddick, he had a good showing. Chase was starting to work his way up towards the front, kind of just hanging out. That's the double-edged sword of this plate racing, right? You're either one side, you can be conservative, or you can push and try to get up to the front. Last big wreck, lap 203, had a bunch of cars in that as well. Chastain involved, Cindric, Dillon, Keselowski, Hamlin. Hamlin got absolutely doored, man. There's an accident involving Briscoe and Priest and a bunch of other people around lap 181, 182. 4-car was involved in that one as well. Took out, the 4-car involved, the 19, the 41, the 14, the 54, and the 84. Speaking of the 84, Jimmy Johnson really, it showed that you don't really miss a step when you're a legend of the sport. We kind of saw him struggle a little bit in the Indy cars, and comes back with Legacy Motor Club, and they actually had a pretty strong showing with all of their cars. Eric Jones was up there towards the front. The 42, Gragson was up there as well. He was still running. He was a couple laps down after getting some damage there towards the end of the race. He was involved in that big Big crash into turn 3, I believe it was. Took out Harrison Burton, Todd Gilliland, Justin Haley. Austin Dillon got took out. Riley Herbst. Jimmy Johnson was involved in that one as well. But all in all, it came down to it. White flag came out. They go into turn 1, and another misjudgment. Almirola ended up getting into the back of Travis Pastrana there at the end, who was right there at the top 10 at the end. I was standing up by this point, and I was trying to cheer Bubba to the front and everything, because that's what I wanted to see after he had a horrible day today. Went down, got trapped a lap down, lost the draft. Had pretty much everything go wrong after getting in contact with the outside wall, after getting pushed from Truex, who was getting pushed from Hamlin, I think, at the time. That big old wreck there at the end, it's just a product of this racing, man. Like I said, the 10 got into the back of the 67, sent him down, turned the 5. Larson had a huge hit. I'm glad he's all right. Barely got the left rear of Bubba, sent Bubba around, who ended up getting into Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch, everybody's all fine and everything, and thankfully the caution came out with Stenhouse ahead of Logano there. Love a good underdog win. So your top 10, Stenhouse, Logano, Christopher Bell, Chris Buescher, Alex Bowman, AJ Allmendinger, Daniel Suarez with a top 10 after coming out of nowhere. He was involved in a couple of things earlier. Ryan Blaney still with a top 8, and that tore up from the floor up, number 12. Ross Chastain rebounds back after that late wreck and gets back into the 9th position. And Riley Herbst gets a top 10. And I think this was his first, this was his Cup debut. So, big tip of the hat on that. Going through the list on some notable names here. Pastrana 11th. Harvick rebounds back for 12th. Zane Smith gets a 13th place finish. Cody Ware finishes in the top 15. We talked about Truex finishing in 15th after he battled through some adversity. Corey LaJoie had a good finish. And then Denny Hamlin was the last one actually listed here as running in 17th. Everybody else was in the accident or behind him. Kind of disappointing days there for... Let's see, looking through the list. Jimmy finished at 31st, but really he should have had a good finish there. He was there towards the end of the race. He again didn't miss a beat. Austin Dillon 33rd. William Byron back there in 34th after getting caught up in those wrecks. Eric Jones, Chase Elliott 38th, Tyler Reddick 39th. Just some notable names going down the list. People who just didn't have, it just wasn't their year, just wasn't their day. So, all in all, the racing itself, again, I feel like the longer that you watch NASCAR and the more of these plate races that you watch, you just kind of get immune to it. You just expect to sit there for about 2.5 hours just watching people go single file and really just waiting for the time to go, waiting to see who they can leave out to dry. We saw Harvick get shuffled out a couple of times, which, was good. When people get shuffled out, it's a good move on the people who are shuffling these people out. But the ones, like, especially if that's your driver getting shuffled out, you get kind of agitated and stuff. It's understandable. But that's just passion for the sport as a fan of that driver. Really, anybody in that top 10 could have won that race there towards the end. They had to throw the caution. There was very heavy contact with Larson there at the end, so you had to throw it. Just like in the Xfinity race, you had to throw it when Sam Mayer went upside down. Again, all in all, man, Daytona was a good race. Of course, as a fan, you'd like to see more action throughout the race, because it's basically the last 5 laps before the end of the stage, and then you're looking for the last 5 laps of stage 1, last 5 laps of stage 2, and the last 10 laps of the race. So you're really watching 200 for 20 laps, which I said I wasn't going to bash Fox too bad. Again, I understand their business, but my goodness, we didn't even get 10 laps. We got the first 10 laps of the race, we got commercial free. And then it was a commercial on an average of every other 10 laps. When they came back one time, it was towards the middle of the race. They came back showed 2 laps, and then went back to commercial for the same amount of time. The side-by-sides going under caution, like, save the side-by-sides for green flag racing. Like, you might not know when they're going to hit, but try to save them for the green flag racing so we're not missing as much of the product as we are actually missing now. Because if we go by the average, because I was watching Justin Malillo on Twitter. He had a good count here. Let me pull this up right quick. 22 commercials and 17 full screen ones. So if you just break that down, we ran 212 laps. So 212 laps. I'm gonna do some math here, man. That's the calendar. I can't do math on a calendar. Divided by 22 means every 9.5 laps we were going to caution, right? I mean, we're going to caution for at least 4 to 5 laps at a time. At least 4 to 5 laps. So, that's 50. That's almost a quarter of the race. And then that's not even including all of the stuff at halftime or during the yellows where we get extended commercials. If we just average 5 laps of commercial at 22 commercials, that's 110 laps that we're missing of a 200 lap race or 212 lap. That's half of the race that we're watching on their commercial. Now I don't mind commercial. They gotta pay their bill. People pay to be seen up on those cars. People pay to be seen on the broadcast. People pay to be seen, period. I get it. Over half the race is a little unnecessary, in my opinion. If anything, it's just hurting the sport and hurting how it's growing. I don't know how anybody would have a brain could sit there and watch a Fox broadcast and think we're doing good for the sport right now with it. Now, I will say that from the Clash to this, I get it. The Clash is supposed to be a little bit more fun, a little more entertaining type of race for everybody to watch. But the professionalism did come back in the booth. I think Tony being up there kind of brings that professionalism up a little bit. It blew my mind, but we had a iRacing wisecrack within the first 10 laps of the race, which I don't know if Mike Joy, has looked at iRacing since the last time that they had to call one of those races during the pandemic. But there is no 3-wide at Daytona, and it is not easy if it is there. You can go 3-wide maybe in the trucks for a little bit if you got the right people, maybe in the D class car, but I ran 2 Daytona 500s and they could barely hold a 2-wide, and it looks like the sim kind of replicated real life there for a little while because sitting there and watching these people get the runs and it's like seeing where the energy was going, trying to guess where you are in the right line for all of that, and it's like, yeah, I can see that they kind of got the model pretty good, But we had an iRacing wisecrack right in the beginning. They're still trying to be comedy hour. It just does not work in the least bit, in my opinion. It takes away from it. It's kind of like how Talladega Nights was like, oh, everybody's like, oh yeah, we quote this movie all of the time, when really it was probably one of the worst things that could have possibly happened for NASCAR, because that's where everything just started sliding downhill and it just becomes a huge joke. Like, we don't have to be stuck up, we can have some fun, but it's I think after the last 3-4 years of hearing that Fox booth, it's become pretty tiring. I've been on the train. I've been on the bandwagon of when the new TV right deals come up, something's got to give, and somebody's got to outbid Fox, or somebody's got to do something, because anything. I'll take a $30 a race streaming service. I would pay $30 a race to watch a NASCAR broadcast ad free, and if I want to hear somebody talk, I go throw on MRN. You know, because with the radio stuff, you know, they got to sit there and paint a picture, while, you know, because people can't see. It's radio, you know. That's why I got a face for it. But I guess our Fox Bashy segment should be over. Clinton Boyer's a lot better this year. You could tell he's getting he's kind of finding his stride with it. You know, he's trying to be the guy you want to drink a beer with, you know, watching the race. But I think it's being a little bit too forced with him right now, and I think Fox is trying to force him a little bit too much. That's just my opinion. You know, because it doesn't come as naturally as the NBC booth, because literally the NBC booth, you know, again, I say it, Fox is comedy hour, NBC is spoon feeding everything. You know, when they're not spoon feeding people information over on NBC, yeah, I can watch that all day. I'll you know, watch it all day. When they're not being comedy hour over on Fox, which is very rare, few far between, I can watch it. It's, you know, they're trying to force personality into the Fox broadcast, and it's just not working. The technical side of it, there was many a times where the camera cuts were bad. You got people just sitting there like this with the microphones, and you know, and then they cut to who they're actually talking to, and then they cut to this, and it's, you know, it's live TV. You're gonna have mistakes, but to continuously make the same mistakes year in and year out, it's just a little bit much, man. So, but all in all, dude, Ricky Stenhouse pulled the moves. He had that awesome run down the back stretch. Made the right move, got in front of that bottom line. The wreck came out. The wreck behind him happened just at the right time. Man, it was good. He had a good run. Love seeing JTG Doherty get a win. You know, single car team. You know, they need that. He's been sitting there struggling for a while. You know, he hasn't won since 2017, the July race at Daytona. So it's really nice to see an underdog win. You know, if I can't have my driver win, I'd much rather have an underdog win it than, you know, somebody from the big teams. You know, it tries to give you a better story on it. I think the biggest story right now is, especially after that huge crash and all of that, we had to wait to hear that these drivers were okay on Twitter, when, you know, we should at least, you know, if the information is readily available, which, you know, it was before the broadcast went off air, you know, we need to know if these guys are all right, you know, because Larson took a hard lick, man. I'm glad he was able to go in victory lane and congratulate Stenhouse and everything. You know, I saw where Blaney went over there, and, you know, it was really very nice to hear that they're all right, because, you know, we don't want this car to start hurting people again. And it looked like it did kind of hold up a little bit more. We didn't really see a lot of rear impacts, I don't believe. At least I didn't. I'm not exactly the most observant person in the world. But we didn't really see a lot of just straight up backing into the wall this go around. But we're very excited. I'm very excited to put this race behind us. You know, again, congrats to Ricky Stenhouse, and head out to Auto Club next week for the last race on the 2-mile oval, which is a shame, because I feel like that's one of the better tracks on the schedule. I don't think the short track reconfiguration is going to come in for years before that actually starts putting on good races. I'm hoping that I'm wrong. I'm hoping that California atmosphere wears that pavement out to where these cars, you know, by the time that pavement gets wore out, hopefully they've got these cars worked out to where they run good on a short track, and we don't have, like we had last year with Martinsville and Bristol and everything like that, because basically what they're doing is trying to make it a big Martinsville. So either way, hope that y'all enjoyed. the racing this weekend. Big shout out to all the winners. Austin Hill got the Xfinity win for 2 years, for the second year in a row. Of course, that massive crash there at the end. Then you had Zane Smith getting back-to-back at Daytona for the Truck Series as well. Like I said, I didn't really see a lot of the truck race. I know it was rain-ridden and everything. The ARCA Menard race, I didn't really get to see a lot of that either. I did see the end to see the guys' reaction. Was it Van Lin or I don't know what his name was, but it was pretty awesome to see that kind of emotion out of that driver. Let me see if I can't pull up the homepage for ARCA. Greg Van Alst. That's pretty cool to see one of them short track guys get a win and get a win at Daytona, and you could tell that it meant a lot to him. You know, the sport is very hard to get to that level, and him getting that win, especially on in the way that he did, being the only race to actually end in the green this entire weekend was pretty special, and that's awesome. You like the kids say, you love to see it. So we'd love to see you back here next week for our Auto Club review. Hope you enjoy the rest of your week. Hope that you enjoyed the Daytona 500 and all of the races this weekend. NASCAR is back in full swing. We'll be back next week to wrap up Auto Club and wrap up the history in that 2-mile course, and just keep moving on throughout the season. So thank you so much for coming out. Have a great day, and we'll see y'all in the next video.